Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like words are trapped inside you, waiting to break free, but you don't know how? Have you ever stood in front of someone, wanting to say something in English, but the words just won't come out? That moment when your mind races, your heart beats faster, and you wish you could speak fluently, confidently, isn't it one of the most frustrating feelings in the world? What if I told you that you hold the power to change that, starting today? Would you believe me? Let's take a journey together, a journey that could change your life. Speaking English is not just about words or grammar. It's about opening doors, making connections, and stepping into a world filled with endless opportunities. Imagine being able to express yourself clearly and confidently at work, in school, or while traveling. Picture the joy of sharing your thoughts, cracking jokes, or simply asking for help without hesitation. Doesn't that sound amazing? This isn't just about learning a language, it's about transforming your life. And trust me, it's easier than you think. Why should you listen to this? Because this is not just advice. This is a promise to make English speaking feel as natural as breathing. A promise to give you the tools and tips that truly work, ones that will boost your confidence and make you unstoppable. Today, we are not just learning how to practice English, we are unlocking your true potential. You might be wondering, but how do I even begin? I'm shy. I make mistakes. I don't have anyone to practice with. Let me tell you, these mistakes are magic. Yes, every mistake you make is proof that you are trying, growing, and improving. Have you ever seen a child learning to walk? They fall hundreds of times, but they never stop. And one day they stand tall. You too are like that child. It doesn't matter if you stumble, what matters is that you don't stop. Here's a secret: speaking English fluently isn't about being perfect. It's about being understood. You don't need to know all the big words. Start small. Speak with whatever words you know, even if it's just hello or how are you. Every single word you speak is a step forward. And do you know what happens when you take one step after another? You move mountains. Practice doesn't have to be boring. Make it fun. Make it exciting. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Yes, you heard me right. Look at yourself and say, "Good morning. How are you today? What are your plans?" Pretend you're talking to a friend. At first it might feel silly, but soon it will feel natural. And here's another idea: listen. 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 Watch movies. Listen to podcasts. Sing your favorite English songs. Feel the words. Feel their rhythm. The more you listen, the more your brain absorbs. And one day, without even realizing it, those words will flow out of your mouth like music. Find a speaking buddy. It doesn't have to be someone fluent in English. It could be a friend, a family member, or even someone learning just like you. The goal is to practice. The more you practice, the more confident you will become. And confidence, my dear listener, is the secret ingredient to speaking beautifully. But what if you have no one to practice with? Don't worry. Technology is your best friend. There are apps, websites, and online communities where you can connect with people from all over the world. You can even record yourself speaking and listen back. At first, it might sound strange, but that's how you improve. You'll hear your mistakes and you'll fix them. Remember, fluency is a journey, not a race. Some days you'll feel amazing, other days it might feel hard. That's okay. Every single word you speak, every effort you make, is progress. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it seems. Now, let me leave you with a thought that will stay with you forever. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You're speaking English with confidence, meeting new people, and achieving your dreams. Doesn't that sound beautiful? That future is within your reach, and it all starts with one decision, your decision to practice, to try, to never give up. If you felt inspired today, if this journey excites you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, your family, anyone who dreams of speaking English fluently. And before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me in this beautiful adventure. Together, we'll make your dreams come true. Let's dive even deeper into this journey of English speaking. Let me tell you a story. Imagine a boy named Rahul from a small village. Rahul always dreamed big, but his biggest fear was speaking English. He loved listening to English songs and watching movies, but when it came to speaking, he froze. People would laugh when he made mistakes, and slowly, he started to avoid speaking altogether. One day, Rahul was sitting under a tree with his notebook, trying to practice by writing down sentences. A kind old man, who often passed by, noticed his struggle. The man sat beside Rahul and asked, "Why do you look so worried?" Rahul hesitated and then said, "I want to speak English, but I am not good at it. People laugh at me." The old man smiled gently and said, "Rahul, let me tell you a secret. When I was your age, I couldn't speak English either. In fact, I couldn't even write my name in English." Rahul was shocked. "But now you speak so fluently. How did you do it?" The man laughed and said, "I made English my best friend. Every day, I spoke to myself in English. I didn't care about grammar or mistakes. I just spoke. I greeted the birds in the morning, described my food before eating, and even told stories to my cow. Slowly, I started improving." Rahul looked surprised but hopeful. "Didn't people laugh at you?" "Oh, They did, the man said, but their laughter made me stronger. Every time someone laughed, I told myself one day, I'll be so good that they'll stop laughing and start clapping. And do you know what happened? What Rahul asked eagerly. One day, I gave a speech in English at a big event, and the same people who laughed were clapping and cheering for me. Rahul, mistakes are like rain. At first, they make you uncomfortable, but later, they help you grow. This story isn't just about Rahul or the old man. It's about all of us. Like Rahul, you might feel nervous. Like the old man, you can turn your nervousness into confidence. Let's make this fun. I want you to do something right now. Close your eyes for a moment and think about something you love, a favorite place, a memory, or a dream. Now, open your eyes and describe it in English. It doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe it's just a few words. For example, I love mountains. They are big. They are quiet. I feel happy there. Did you notice what you just did? You spoke in English. That's how it starts, one simple sentence at a time. Here's another story to inspire you. There was a girl named Fatima who worked in a small shop in her town. She dreamed of becoming a flight attendant, but the job required fluent English. Fatima didn't have money for expensive classes, so she decided to teach herself. Every day, she would watch English interviews of famous people and mimic their words. She would stand in front of a mirror and practice smiling, speaking, and greeting imaginary passengers. Fatima also had a notebook where she wrote down 3 new words every day. She used those words in her conversations, even if it was just with herself. Slowly, her confidence grew. One day, she applied for the flight attendant job, and to her surprise, she got selected. When asked in the interview how she learned English, Fatima said, "I practiced until English felt like my second skin." What can we learn from Fatima? You don't need fancy tools or expensive courses. All you need is determination, creativity, and a willingness to try. Now, let's add some practical magic to your journey. Have you ever heard of shadowing? It's one of the best ways to improve your speaking. Here's how it works. Listen to someone speaking in English, maybe a podcast, a speech, or even a dialogue from a movie. Then, repeat what they say at the same time. Don't worry about matching their speed or pronunciation perfectly. Just try to keep up. Shadowing helps your brain and mouth get used to the rhythm of English. Another tip: use your environment. Label things in your house with sticky notes. Write mirror on your mirror, door on your door, and so on. This will help you remember everyday words effortlessly. And whenever you use something, say its name aloud. I'm opening the door, I'm looking in the mirror. It may sound simple, but it's powerful. Let me tell you another heartwarming story. Meet Arjun, who wanted to impress a girl he liked. She was fluent in English, and he felt shy speaking to her. But instead of giving up, Arjun made a plan. He started writing letters to her in English. At first, his sentences were short and full of mistakes, but she appreciated his effort. She even corrected his letters gently. Over time, Arjun's writing improved, and with it, his confidence to speak. Eventually, he not only impressed the girl but also became a confident English speaker. The moral of these stories is simple: English is not about being perfect, it's about expressing yourself. Whether it's describing your dreams, greeting someone, or writing letters, every effort you make adds to your journey. I'll leave you with a small challenge every day. Speak one sentence in English. Just one. And watch how that one sentence grows into 2, then 10, then a whole conversation. Imagine the joy you'll feel when you realize that the words that once scared you now come naturally. Let's keep moving forward with more stories, tips, and inspiration to help you conquer your English speaking goals. Each step of this journey brings us closer to unlocking your full potential. Let me share a story about a man named Carlos. Carlos was a taxi driver in a busy city. He didn't speak English, but his passengers often did, especially tourists. Carlos felt embarrassed when he couldn't answer simple questions like how much does this cost or where's the best restaurant nearby. But instead of letting that embarrassment defeat him, he decided to turn his taxi into his classroom. Carlos carried a small notebook in his pocket. Whenever he heard a new English word or phrase from a passenger, he wrote it down. After his shifts, he would go home, look up those words, and practice saying them aloud. He also kept flashcards in his car, and during quiet moments, he would quiz himself. One day, a passenger got into his taxi and asked, "Can you take me to the museum?" Carlos replied confidently, "Yes, of course. Welcome to my taxi." The passenger smiled and said, "Your English is good." That moment lit a spark in Carlos. He realized he could now communicate, even if it was in simple sentences. Over time, Carlos became one of the most popular taxi drivers in his city, loved by tourists for his friendly demeanor and improving English. What can we learn from Carlos? That learning English doesn't need to happen in a classroom. Your world can be your teacher. Every situation is an opportunity to practice, whether you're at work, in a shop, or even just walking in the park. Here's a fun exercise for you to try. Pick 5 simple questions and practice answering them in English every day. For example, what is your name? Where are you from? What do you like to do? What is your favorite food? How is the weather today? Answering these questions daily will build your confidence, and soon you'll find yourself answering them without hesitation. Now, let me tell you about Aisha, a young woman who had big dreams of becoming a teacher. Aisha lived in a small town where English wasn't spoken much. She struggled with pronunciation and grammar and often felt like giving up. But Aisha had one thing that kept her going, a dream. She started small. She would stand in front of an empty classroom in her house and pretend to teach in English. She spoke to imaginary students, explaining lessons and answering pretend questions. She even recorded herself and listened back to find areas for improvement. Slowly, her confidence grew. One day, an opportunity came. A local school was looking for an assistant teacher. Aisha applied, and during the interview, she spoke in English with courage and passion. She didn't speak perfectly, but her effort and determination impressed the interviewers. She got the job. Today, Aisha is a beloved teacher, inspiring her students not just with lessons, but with her story of perseverance. What does Aisha's story tell us? That practice, no matter how small or simple, builds the foundation for success. Speak aloud, even if no one is listening. Pretend, imagine, and play with the language. These small efforts add up to big results. Let's not forget the role of emotions in learning. When you feel excited about speaking, when you attach your learning to something you love, the process becomes magical. If you love food, talk about food in English. If you love sports, describe your favorite game or player. Passion makes practice easier and more enjoyable. Here's a challenge for you every evening. Think about your day and describe it in English. Start with simple sentences like, "Today was a good day. I went to the market. I bought some fruits. I saw my friend over time." Add more details. "Today was sunny, and I felt happy. I went to the market to buy fresh apples, and they smelled so sweet. I met my friend, and we talked about our weekend plans." Mistakes? Let them come. Mistakes are proof that you're learning. Think of them as stepping stones, not obstacles. Another inspiring story comes from a boy named Ahmed, who lived in a village surrounded by hills. Ahmed dreamed of becoming a tour guide, showing visitors the beauty of his hometown. But there was one problem: most tourists spoke English and Ahmed didn't. He knew his dream would remain just a dream if he didn't learn. Ahmed didn't have access to fancy tools, but he had a radio. Every day, he tuned into English news stations and tried to mimic the announcers. He didn't understand everything, but he caught the rhythm and flow of the language. Slowly, he began to recognize words and phrases. One day, a group of tourists visited his village, and Ahmed gathered his courage to approach them. With simple words and big smiles, he offered to show them around. The tourists were thrilled and praised his efforts. That moment changed Ahmed's life. Today, he's a successful tour guide, known for his passion and dedication. From Ahmed, we learn the power of perseverance, Even when resources are limited, creativity and determination can help you achieve your goals. Before we move forward, I want you to take a moment to imagine yourself in the future. You're standing in front of a group of people, speaking English fluently and confidently. They're listening to you with admiration, nodding and smiling at your words. How does it feel? Hold on to that feeling, because that's where you're headed. Remember, every word you practice brings you closer to the confident English speaker you want to be. Let me share another story with you, this time about Maya, a woman who worked in a small bakery. Maya loved baking cakes and pastries, and she had a dream to open her own bakery one day in the city. But there was a challenge. Most of the customers in the city spoke English. Maya wasn't confident in her English, and the thought of speaking to strangers made her nervous. But she also knew that her dream was bigger than her fear. She decided to start small. When customers came to her bakery, she practiced saying simple sentences like "Good morning" or "How can I help you?" One day, a tourist walked into her shop and asked, "What do you recommend?" Maya hesitated for a moment, but then she took a deep breath and said, "Try our chocolate cake. It is fresh and delicious." The tourist smiled, bought the cake, and said, "Your English is good." That compliment stayed with Maya for days. Maya began to write down every sentence she thought she might need to use with her customers. She practiced them at night, speaking to herself in the mirror. Over time, her confidence grew. Eventually, Maya saved enough money to open her dream bakery in the city. Today, she chats with customers from all over the world, sharing her love for baking and for learning English. What do we learn from Maya? That courage, even in small moments, can lead to big changes. Every time you use a new word or phrase, you're planting the seeds of fluency. Now, let's make this journey practical. Do you remember when you learned to ride a bicycle? At first, it felt wobbly and strange, but with practice, it became second nature. Speaking English is the same. At first, it feels unfamiliar, but the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Try this whenever you see something around you. Describe it in English. For example, if you see a tree, you might say, "The tree is tall. Its leaves are green. Birds are sitting on the branches." Don't worry about making long, perfect sentences. Focus on expressing what you see and feel. Let me tell you about Ravi, a young man who worked as a waiter in a busy restaurant. Ravi's job required him to interact with English-speaking customers, but he often felt shy and made mistakes. One day, a customer kindly told him, "You know, your smile and effort are more important than perfect English." That simple comment changed Ravi's mindset. He realized that people value kindness and effort more than flawless grammar. From that day on, Ravi approached every customer with a bright smile and simple sentences. He learned new phrases by listening to his customers and asking them for the correct way to say things. Over time, Ravi's confidence skyrocketed. He even started taking online courses to improve his vocabulary. One evening, he received a large tip from a group of tourists, along with a note that read, "Thank you for making our dinner special. Your English is wonderful." Ravi's story reminds us that confidence and effort matter more than perfection. The goal isn't to avoid mistakes, it's to keep trying, even when it feels challenging. Here's another fun way to practice storytelling. Pick a favorite story from your childhood, maybe a folk tale or a personal memory, and try telling it in English. Start with simple sentences. For example, if your story is about a trip to the beach, you might say, "Last year I went to the beach. The water was blue. I played in the sand. It was a happy day." As you get more comfortable, add more details. "Last year, I visited the beach with my family. The water was so clear that I could see fish swimming. We built a big sand castle and watched the sunset. It was one of the happiest days of my life." Storytelling is powerful because it connects emotions to language. When you speak from your heart, words flow more naturally. Let me share one more story, this time about a boy named Amir. Amir loved soccer and dreamed of playing in an international tournament. But to communicate with players from other countries, he needed to speak English. Amir decided to use his passion to learn. He started watching soccer interviews and matches in English. He learned phrases like "pass the ball, great shot," and "well played." He practiced these phrases while playing with his friends. Whenever he made a mistake, his friends laughed. But Amir laughed too. He knew that every mistake was teaching him something new. One day, Amir got the chance to play in a local tournament where players from different countries participated. When he scored a goal, he shouted, "That's how we do it in perfect English." His teammates cheered, and Amir felt a surge of pride. Amir's journey shows us that when you connect language learning to something you love, it becomes a joyful experience. Here's a challenge for you. Think about something you're passionate about: music, art, sports, cooking, and learn English words and phrases related to it. If you love music, learn to describe your favorite songs. If you enjoy cooking, practice describing recipes and ingredients in English. As we continue this journey, remember that fluency is not a destination, it's a path you walk every day. The small steps you take, speaking a sentence, learning a word, or even making a mistake, are all part of your success. Let's keep moving forward on this exciting journey. There's so much more to share, and each story, tip, and encouragement will bring you closer to your dream of speaking English fluently and confidently. You're sitting in a room full of people. Everyone is chatting in English, and at first, you feel out of place. But then you smile and think, I've been practicing. I can do this. You say something simple like, hello, how are you suddenly? Someone responds warmly. And just like that, a conversation begins. You feel proud and confident. That's the moment when you realize that all your efforts were worth it. Speaking of effort, let me tell you about a young man named Samir. Samir loved movies, especially Hollywood films, but he couldn't understand most of the dialogues, and it frustrated him. One day, he decided to do something about it. He started watching his favorite movies with subtitles in his native language. When he felt comfortable, he switched the subtitles to English. At first, it was hard, but he persisted. He would pause the movie, repeat the lines, and mimic the actors' accents. Samir didn't just watch movies, he became an active participant, speaking along with the characters. Over time, Samir's listening and speaking skills improved dramatically. One day, while hanging out with his friends, he quoted a famous movie line in perfect English. His friends were amazed, and Samir felt a surge of confidence. What do we learn from Samir's story? That learning can be fun and creative. If you love movies, songs, or books, use them as tools to practice. When you enjoy the process, you'll stay motivated. Now, let's make things even more practical. Have you ever tried thinking in English? This might sound challenging at first, but it's a game changer. Instead of translating your thoughts from your native language to English, start with simple phrases. For example, when you wake up, think, it's a sunny day. When you're about to eat, think, I'm having breakfast slowly. As you practice, your thoughts will naturally flow in English. Here's another inspiring story. Meet Priya, a young woman who worked in customer service. Priya was shy and often avoided speaking English because she was afraid of making mistakes. One day, her boss encouraged her to take on a project that required interacting with English-speaking clients. Priya was terrified, but she didn't want to miss the opportunity. She started preparing by practicing in front of a mirror every morning. She wrote down common phrases and rehearsed them aloud. She also joined an online language exchange group where she could practice speaking with people from around the world. When the project began, Priya wasn't perfect, but she gave it her best shot. To her surprise, the clients appreciated her effort and kindness. By the end of the project, Priya had gained not only confidence but also the trust of her team. Priya's story reminds us that stepping out of our comfort zone is essential for growth. Fear is natural, but it should never hold you back. Every time you push yourself to try, you're building your confidence and skills. Now, let's talk about pronunciation. Many learners worry about their accent, but here's the truth: your accent is part of who you are. It tells the story of where you come from. Instead of trying to sound perfect, focus on being clear. Practice pronouncing tricky words slowly and repeatedly. Listen to how native speakers say them and try to imitate their intonation and rhythm. One fun way to improve pronunciation is by singing. Pick an English song you love and sing along with it. Pay attention to how the words flow together. Singing not only helps with pronunciation, but also makes learning enjoyable. Let me share another beautiful story. This one is about Ali, a boy who grew up in a small fishing village. Ali dreamed of becoming a marine biologist, but he knew that his dream required fluency in English. Ali didn't have access to English classes, so he created his own learning environment. He wrote the names of fish, boats, and sea-related terms in English on small cards and stuck them around his house. Every day, he practiced using these words in sentences the fish is swimming or the boat is in the water. One day, a team of researchers visited his village. Ali gathered the courage to speak to them in English, using the words he had learned. The researchers were impressed by his effort and passion. They even invited him to help with their project. That opportunity changed Ali's life. Ali's story shows us that you don't need expensive resources to learn. Curiosity and creativity are enough. Surround yourself with English in whatever way you can, and you'll see progress. Here's a tip for expanding your vocabulary. Keep a word journal every day. Write down 3 new English words and their meanings. Use those words in sentences and try to include them in your conversations. For example, if you learn the word excited, you might say, "I am excited to learn English today." Let's keep this going with one final challenge for today. Record yourself speaking in English for 1 minute every day. Talk about anything, a memory, your plans, or even how your day went. Don't worry about making mistakes. The goal is to get comfortable with speaking. Over time, you'll notice your progress, and those recordings will become a source of pride. Before we move on, I want to leave you with this thought: learning English is not just about speaking a new language. It's about opening doors to new opportunities, friendships, and experiences. Every word you learn is a step toward a brighter future. Let's dive even deeper into this journey of learning English. Imagine yourself in a world where language is no longer a barrier, where every word you speak connects you to new friends, opens new doors, and brings your dreams closer to reality. That world isn't far away, it's just a few steps ahead, and each moment we share here is bringing you closer. Let me tell you about Gia, a university student who struggled to participate in class discussions because she felt her English wasn't good enough. Gia loved reading novels in her native language, but she avoided English books because they seemed too difficult. One day, her professor gave her a challenge: read 1 page of an English book every night before bed. At first, it was slow. Gia had to look up words in the dictionary, and sometimes she felt frustrated. But she didn't stop. Slowly, she began recognizing words and phrases without needing the dictionary. One day, she realized she had finished her first English novel. That moment filled her with pride and motivation. Soon, Gia found herself contributing to class discussions with examples from the books she read. Her classmates noticed her confidence, and her professor praised her efforts. Reading not only improved her vocabulary and grammar, but also gave her the courage to speak up. Gia's story teaches us that reading is a powerful tool. Even if you start with children's books or short articles, every word you read builds your skills. The key is consistency. Just like Gia, if you commit to reading a little every day, the results will amaze you. Speaking of reading, here's a fun exercise for you. Pick a short story or article in English. Read it aloud, even if you're alone. Focus on pronunciation and intonation. Reading aloud helps you become more comfortable with the rhythm of the language, and it's an excellent way to practice speaking without pressure. Let's switch gears and talk about a boy named Daniel. Daniel grew up in a bustling city and had big dreams of working in an international company. He knew that to achieve this, he needed to speak English fluently. But Daniel had a problem. He was afraid to speak in front of others. One day, his teacher gave him an assignment to present in English. Daniel was nervous, but he decided to prepare thoroughly. He wrote out his speech, practiced it in front of a mirror, and even recorded himself to listen for mistakes. On the day of the presentation, Daniel's hands were shaking, but he took a deep breath and began. His voice was shaky at first, but as he continued, he gained confidence. By the end, his classmates applauded, and Daniel felt a rush of pride. After that experience, Daniel made it a habit to practice speaking every day, even if it was just for a few minutes. He would talk about his day, explain his favorite topics, or even pretend to give speeches. Over time, his fear of speaking disappeared, and his fluency improved. Daniel's journey shows us the power of preparation and practice. If you feel nervous about speaking, don't let that stop you. Start small, prepare well, and take every opportunity to speak. Confidence grows with each step you take. Here's a tip to help you practice. Find a speaking buddy. It could be a friend, a family member, or someone you meet online who's also learning English. Practice having simple conversations, like introducing yourself, talking about your hobbies, or discussing your favorite movie. A supportive partner can make learning fun and less intimidating. Now let me share a unique story about Elena, a young woman who loved art. Elena didn't have the chance to attend formal English classes, but she found a creative way to learn. She started drawing and painting scenes from her daily life and writing short descriptions in English underneath her artwork. For example, If she painted a picture of the sunrise, she would write, "This is the sunrise. The sky is orange and pink. It is very beautiful over time." Her descriptions became more detailed. "This is the sunrise over the hills. The sky is painted with shades of orange, pink, and purple. It feels peaceful and inspiring." Elena's unique method not only improved her English but also brought her joy. She combined her passion for art with her desire to learn, making the process enjoyable and fulfilling. What can we learn from Elena? That creativity can make learning English more exciting. If you love writing, try journaling in English. If you enjoy photography, describe your photos in English. When you combine language learning with your passions, it becomes a natural part of your life. Now let's talk about mistakes. Many learners fear making mistakes, but mistakes are not failures, they're stepping stones. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble and fall, but every fall teaches them how to balance better. The same is true for language learning. Each mistake brings you closer to fluency. Let me challenge you to embrace your mistakes. Speak without fear, write without hesitation, and laugh at the funny moments when things don't go as planned. Remember, the only way to avoid mistakes is to say nothing at all. And saying nothing means you're not growing. Here's a practical tip: practice speaking in front of a mirror. Look at yourself as you speak and pay attention to your facial expressions and gestures. This will help you become more aware of how you communicate and boost your confidence. Before we continue, close your eyes and imagine your future self. You're at a party, meeting new people, and having a conversation in English with ease. You're laughing, sharing stories, and feeling proud of how far you've come. That vision is possible, and every step you take today brings you closer to it. Let's keep going on this exciting path together, where every word, every tip, and every story lights the way to your success. Remember, learning English is not just about a language, it's about unlocking a version of yourself that is confident, connected, and unstoppable. Here's another story to inspire you. Meet Sophia, a woman who worked as a florist in a small town. Sophia had a beautiful way with flowers, creating stunning arrangements that brought joy to everyone. But there was a problem: tourists often visited her shop, and many of them spoke English. Sophia wanted to communicate better, but she always hesitated, fearing she might say something wrong. One day, a tourist came into her shop and pointed to a bouquet, saying, "It's lovely." "What is this flower called?" Sophia froze for a moment, unsure of how to respond. Then she smiled and said, "This is a rose." "Beautiful." "Yes," the tourist nodded and said, "Your English is good." That small moment gave Sophia courage. After that, she started learning the names of flowers and phrases like, "How can I help you?" and "Would you like a ribbon?" She even practiced with her flowers at home, pretending they were customers. Over time, her confidence grew, and her shop became a favorite spot for tourists. Sophia's story reminds us that learning doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start small. Focus on the words and phrases you need the most. As you practice, your vocabulary will naturally expand, and your confidence will blossom. Here's a tip for you: create a word box. Write down new words you learn on small pieces of paper and put them in a box. Each day, take out one word, read it, and use it in a sentence or conversation. This simple habit will help you remember words better and make learning feel like a game. Let's shift gears to another inspiring story. Arjun, a teenager, loved playing video games. He spent hours immersed in online worlds, but he often felt left out because many of his teammates communicated in English. One day, he decided to change that. Arjun started by learning gaming-related phrases, like "let's attack, watch out," and "well played." He practiced these phrases while playing, even if he felt shy at first. Gradually, he began participating in team discussions and strategies. One day, his teammates noticed his efforts and said, "Your English is improving." Great job. Those words meant the world to Arjun. They motivated him to keep practicing, and soon he became the go-to player for team communication. Arjun's journey shows us the power of combining language learning with something you love. Whether it's gaming, cooking, or any other hobby, find ways to connect it with English. Learning becomes much more enjoyable when it's tied to your passions. Let me share a simple but powerful exercise with you. Each night before bed, take a few minutes to reflect on your day in English. Think about what you did, who you talked to, and how you felt. For example, you might say, "Today, I went to the park. I saw a dog playing with a ball. It made me happy." This habit not only improves your fluency, but also helps you end your day on a positive note. Now, here's another story about courage. Amal was a young professional who dreamed of giving presentations in English at international conferences, but he had a fear of public speaking, especially in a second language. To overcome his fear, Amal joined a local speaking club where he could practice giving short speeches in English. The first time he spoke, his hands were trembling and his voice was shaky. But the audience was supportive, and they encouraged him to keep going. Amal practiced relentlessly. He recorded himself, listened to his mistakes, and worked on improving. He learned how to use body language, pauses, and eye contact to connect with his audience. A year later, Amal stood on a stage at an international conference and delivered a powerful presentation. When he finished, the audience gave him a standing ovation. That moment was a testament to his hard work and determination. Amal's story reminds us that fear is temporary, but the rewards of facing it are lasting. If you're nervous about speaking, start small. Practice with friends, join clubs, or even speak to yourself in the mirror. Every step you take brings you closer to confidence. Here's a fun way to practice speaking. Describe your favorite things. For example, if you love a particular dish, explain how it's made, what it tastes like, and why you enjoy it. If you have a favorite place, describe what it looks like, how it feels, and what makes it special. This exercise not only improves your fluency but also helps you connect emotions to your words. Before we continue, let me remind you of something important. Every mistake you make, every word you struggle with, is a sign that you're growing. Be proud of your effort. Learning a language is like planting a tree. It takes time, patience, and care, but the fruits are worth it. Let's keep moving forward, step by step, toward a world where English feels as natural to you as the language of your heart. Remember, every word you learn, every sentence you speak, is a seed planted for future growth. And just like a garden, your language skills will bloom beautifully with care and patience. Here's a story to inspire you. Imagine a young girl named Lila who lived in a small village. Lila loved poetry and dreamed of reciting poems in English one day, but she had never spoken the language. The idea seemed impossible, but her dream kept calling her. One day, Lila found an old English poetry book at the village market. She couldn't understand much, but the rhythm of the words fascinated her. She decided to learn by reading one poem every week. She would write down the words she didn't know, look them up in a dictionary, and practice saying them out loud. Lila also started recording herself reading the poems. At first, she stumbled over the words, but each time she practiced, her confidence grew. Eventually, she could recite entire poems fluently. One day, during a village festival, Lila surprised everyone by reciting a beautiful English poem on stage. The audience was amazed, and Lila's heart swelled with pride. What can we learn from Lila? That dedication, even in small amounts, can lead to remarkable achievements, whether it's a poem, a song, or a short story. Start with something you love and let it guide your practice. Let's talk about another technique, shadowing. Shadowing is a simple yet powerful way to improve your pronunciation and fluency. Find an audio clip or video in English, perhaps a TED Talk, a podcast, or even a scene from your favorite movie. Play a sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly as you hear it. Try to match the speaker's tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. Over time, this practice will train your ear and help you sound more natural when you speak. It's like having a virtual tutor. And the best part is, you can do it anywhere while walking, cooking, or even relaxing at home. Let's bring another inspiring story into the mix. Ahmed was a taxi driver in a busy city. Every day, he picked up passengers from around the world, many of whom spoke English. Ahmed often felt frustrated because he couldn't communicate well with them. Instead of giving up, Ahmed turned his taxi into a classroom. He kept a small notebook in the car and wrote down common phrases passengers used, like "turn left, how much is the fare?" and "have a good day." He practiced these phrases during quiet moments and tried them out with passengers. One day, a tourist told Ahmed, "You speak good English." That compliment gave him confidence, and he began learning more phrases and even asking passengers questions about their travels. Over time, Ahmed became known as the friendly driver who could hold a conversation in English. Ahmed's story is a reminder that opportunities to learn are everywhere, even in the most unexpected places. Use your daily life as your classroom. If you work in a shop, learn phrases for greeting customers. If you're a student, practice asking and answering questions. Every interaction is a chance to grow. Here's a quick exercise for you. Practice speaking about your daily routine. Start with simple sentences like, "I wake up at 7 a.m. or "I go to the market to buy vegetables." As you get comfortable, add more details. "I wake up at 7 a.m., brush my teeth, and make a cup of coffee. Then I read the newspaper before starting my day." This exercise helps you build fluency and confidence because it's based on things you do every day. Plus, it's a great way to prepare for casual conversations. Let me tell you about a boy named Ravi who loved cricket. Ravi's dream was to watch international matches and talk to players, but his English was weak. Instead of feeling discouraged, Ravi combined his passion for cricket with his desire to learn. He started watching cricket matches with English commentary. At first, he didn't understand much, but he kept listening. He wrote down phrases like "what a shot" and "the bowler is on fire" and practiced saying them aloud. Ravi also joined online cricket forums where he could chat with fans from around the world. At first, he made mistakes, but the other fans encouraged him to keep trying. Over time, Ravi not only improved his English but also made friends who shared his passion. Ravi's journey shows us the magic of blending learning with something you love. When you're excited about the topic, learning feels less like work and more like play. Here's a tip for keeping your motivation high. Celebrate your progress. Every time you learn a new word, master a tricky phrase, or speak with confidence, take a moment to acknowledge your achievement. It could be something as simple as saying, "I'm proud of myself," or treating yourself to a favorite snack. Imagine how your life will change when English becomes not just a skill, but a gateway to new experiences. Each day, you're building the foundation for something incredible, and each moment you spend practicing is an investment in your future. Here's another story of transformation to inspire you. Meet Juan, a young man from a small town who dreamed of becoming a software developer. He knew that English was key to his success because most programming languages, tutorials, and software documentation were in English. But there was one problem. Juan was not confident in his English skills, and that held him back. Rather than letting this challenge stop him, Juan started small. He began watching online programming tutorials in English, focusing on understanding the technical terms. At first, he couldn't catch everything, but he didn't give up. He made a list of the words and phrases he didn't understand, looked them up, and reviewed them repeatedly. Slowly but surely, he began to recognize technical vocabulary and how to use it in context. The turning point came when Juan decided to build a simple website for practice. Instead of relying on tutorials in his native language, he used English resources exclusively. He struggled at times, but with each line of code he wrote and every tutorial he followed, his English improved. As his technical skills grew, so did his confidence in English. He started collaborating with international developers, using English to communicate in coding forums and work on open source projects. Juan's story teaches us that learning English doesn't always have to be about traditional lessons. It can be integrated into your hobbies, career goals, or passions. For Juan, programming and learning English went hand in hand. When you can make learning enjoyable by blending it with something you love, you create a powerful, motivating force that keeps you moving forward. Let's talk about an important habit: listening. When you're learning a language, it's easy to focus on speaking and writing, but listening is just as crucial. The more you listen, the more you'll internalize the language's natural rhythm, pronunciation, and patterns. This is why podcasts, audiobooks, and movies in English are so helpful. One of the best ways to practice listening is by watching movies or TV shows you already know in your own language, but this time, try to watch them in English. The familiarity with the plot will help you understand the language, and soon you'll find yourself picking up new words and expressions without even trying. As you listen, try to focus on different accents, expressions, and slang. The more diverse the content, the richer your vocabulary will become. And now, let me share the story of Mia, a woman who dreamed of traveling the world. Mia had always wanted to explore new countries, but she felt nervous about communicating in English. Despite being afraid of making mistakes, Mia made a commitment she would speak to at least one person in English every day, no matter what. Mia started by ordering her coffee in English at a local cafe. At first, the barista looked at her in surprise, but Mia smiled and carried on, even though her voice trembled. The more she did this, the less afraid she became. Soon, she was speaking to people at the bus stop, making small talk with travelers, and even joining English-speaking tour groups. Each interaction built her confidence. Her first big trip abroad was to Italy, where she had always dreamed of going. To her surprise, Mia was able to communicate effortlessly with the locals, ask for directions, and even enjoy deep conversations with fellow travelers. She realized that every small conversation had been a step toward this moment of fluency. Mia's story reminds us that learning a language doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in small, everyday moments, like buying a coffee or asking for help. Every small step you take is a part of the bigger journey. Here's an exercise to practice speaking with confidence. Try starting conversations with people in your community, even if it's in simple English. Greet a neighbor, ask for directions, or chat with someone in a store. The key is to practice speaking regularly, even if you make mistakes. Every time you speak, you'll improve. Now, let's focus on a different aspect of language learning: writing. It's easy to think of English only in terms of speaking and listening, but writing is an essential skill. Writing helps solidify what you've learned and gives you a chance to practice your grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. Begin by writing a simple journal entry in English every day. Don't worry about making it perfect, just focus on expressing your thoughts and feelings. For example, you might write, "Today, I felt happy because I learned a new word in English. It was optimistic and I used it in a sentence." Writing in this way not only helps you practice, but also makes learning more personal and meaningful. Let me share another story, this time about Omar, a university student who struggled with writing essays in English. Omar knew that his grammar wasn't perfect, and he often felt nervous about making mistakes. However, he decided to tackle his fear head-on by starting a blog in English. At first, his posts were simple, just short thoughts and reflections, but gradually he began writing longer pieces about his interests and experiences. Omar also started reading other blogs in English to see how other writers expressed their ideas. This helped him improve his writing style and expand his vocabulary. By the end of the year, Omar's blog had gained a small following. His essays for university became stronger, and his teachers noticed his progress. Omar realized that the more he wrote, the better he became. Omar's journey shows us that writing can be fun and rewarding, especially when it's something you're passionate about. Whether it's blogging, journaling, or even writing letters to friends, writing gives you a chance to practice English in a way that feels real and relevant to your life. Let's take a moment to think about this. No one learns English overnight, but with consistent effort, the journey becomes a beautiful adventure. Every time you practice, whether it's through speaking, listening, writing, or reading, you are moving closer to becoming the fluent English speaker you aspire to be. The most important thing to remember is that learning English is not a race. It's a lifelong journey, one that brings rewards at every stage. Celebrate every small victory, whether it's a new word, a clearer sentence, or the courage to speak in public. You are on the right path, and every effort you make counts. So, what's next for you? What will you do today to improve your English? It doesn't matter if you're just starting or if you've been learning for years. Every step forward is progress, and I believe in your ability to succeed. It's a journey that doesn't have a finish line, but instead offers an endless array of opportunities. With every step, you're discovering more about yourself and about how language can transform your world. Here's another story to keep you inspired. Meet Sarah, a young woman with a passion for cooking. Sarah loved experimenting with new recipes and ingredients, but she often struggled to follow English language cookbooks and cooking videos. She realized that many of her favorite chefs on YouTube spoke in English, and the recipes they shared were often in English too. Sarah knew that if she wanted to fully experience the world of international cuisine, she would need to improve her English skills. Sarah made a plan. Each week, she would pick one recipe from an English language cookbook or video. She would listen to the instructions carefully, pause when needed, and repeat the key steps out loud. She even started writing down new cooking-related vocabulary, like sauté, whisk, and garnish, and made sure to use these words when describing her cooking process. As Sarah practiced, she became more comfortable with the language of cooking. She could now follow recipes without hesitation and even explain cooking techniques in English. The best part was when she started her own cooking blog in English, sharing her recipes and experiences with an international audience. She received positive feedback from readers around the world, which boosted her confidence. Sarah's story is a beautiful reminder that learning English can be connected to your passions, turning everyday activities into opportunities for growth. Whether it's cooking, sports, music, or art, use your interests as stepping stones to enhance your English skills. By merging your hobbies with language learning, you'll feel more excited and motivated to practice every day. Now, let's talk about a fun way to improve your listening skills. Try listening to English songs. Music is a fantastic tool for language learning because it exposes you to everyday language, slang, and even cultural references. Choose songs you love and listen to them carefully. Write down the lyrics and try to sing along. Over time, this will improve your pronunciation, listening skills, and even your understanding of colloquial phrases. It's also important to remember that not all language learning happens in a classroom or textbook. Every time you immerse yourself in English media, whether it's through music, movies, or even video games, you are learning. This kind of learning feels natural because it's part of your everyday life, and it helps you connect emotionally to the language. Let me share the story of Ravi, a student who wanted to improve his English for his studies. He struggled to keep up with his classmates who spoke English fluently, and this made him feel discouraged. But instead of giving up, Ravi decided to take a different approach. He began watching English language movies with subtitles, focusing not only on the words but also on the context and emotions behind them. Ravi was fascinated by how language could convey deep feelings, whether it was excitement, sadness, or humor. He realized that understanding the emotions behind the words made him feel more connected to the language. He started mimicking the intonation and tone of the actors, practicing how to express emotions in English. Slowly, Ravi's English began to improve, and he felt more confident participating in discussions and giving presentations in class. Ravi's story is a wonderful example of how language learning can be enriched by understanding the emotional and cultural context. When you connect emotionally with the language, it becomes more than just a set of words. It becomes a tool for expression, creativity, and connection. Another tip to improve your English is to surround yourself with the language as much as possible. Change the language settings on your phone, social media accounts, and even the apps you use. When you start seeing English everywhere, you'll gradually become more comfortable with it. Even if you're not consciously focusing on learning, your brain will absorb new words and structures, making English feel like a natural part of your life. Let's dive into a story about creativity and persistence. Mia had always dreamed of writing a novel, but her biggest challenge was her lack of confidence in her English writing skills. Mia was born in a non-English speaking country, and although she understood the language, writing in English felt like a huge obstacle. Instead of getting discouraged, Mia made a commitment to write at least 100 words in English every day. She wrote about her thoughts, her day, and even short stories. She didn't worry about making it perfect. Her goal was to build the habit of writing and improve slowly over time. As Mia practiced, she started to recognize the common patterns in English writing and how to structure her sentences. One day, Mia decided to submit a short story to an online writing contest. She was nervous, but she pushed herself to do it anyway. To her surprise, her story won second place. That experience gave Mia the motivation she needed to continue pursuing her dream of writing a novel in English. She realized that her journey had just begun, and every small effort she made brought her closer to her goal. Mia's story teaches us that persistence and creativity are key to success. Even if you feel like you're not perfect, take small, consistent steps toward your goal. Don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way. Each one is part of the learning process. Another great way to practice writing is to start a word diary each day. Choose 5 new words you've learned and write a short story or a paragraph using them. Not only does this reinforce the words in your memory, but it also helps you practice forming sentences and improving your writing style. Here's a challenge for you. Write down a goal for your English learning journey. It could be anything from holding a 10-minute conversation in English to writing a full essay. Whatever it is, break it down into smaller, achievable steps. Each time you complete one of those steps, celebrate your progress. You'll see how far you've come, and you'll feel proud of every achievement, big or small. Now, let's wrap up this chapter of your journey with a powerful thought. Every time you practice English, you are creating a version of yourself that is capable, confident, and open to the world. The more you speak, listen, write, and read in English, the more doors you'll open to new opportunities, friendships, and experiences. You are not just learning a language, you are building a bridge to a future full of possibilities. And with that, my friend, the adventure is far from over. Keep practicing, keep pushing yourself, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to succeed. Your English speaking journey is a beautiful one, and I'm honored to be part of it. Let's keep pushing forward, because the journey is never truly finished. It's just a beautiful, ongoing process that builds upon every step you take, every word you speak, every sentence you form, and every conversation you engage in brings you closer to your goals. Remember, the world of English is vast, and with each small effort, you're gaining more freedom, more understanding, and more opportunities. Imagine waking up tomorrow and feeling completely confident in your ability to communicate in English, whether you're talking with someone at a coffee shop, writing an email for work, or traveling to a new country. Picture yourself in a conversation where the words come naturally, and you're not afraid to make mistakes because you know that every mistake is just another opportunity to grow. The power of English extends beyond just speaking the language. It's about building connections, creating opportunities, and gaining a deeper understanding of the world around you. Think about how much you can achieve when you're able to share your ideas and dreams with others, express your opinions, and engage in conversations with people from all corners of the globe. Your voice will have power. Your ideas will have a wider reach, and your world will expand in ways you never imagined. Let's talk about the importance of being consistent in your practice. One of the most effective ways to improve your English is through regular, daily practice. It doesn't have to be long hours of study, just a little bit every day can make a huge difference. Even 10 minutes of focused practice each day will add up over time. Consistency is key, and it's better to practice for a short time every day than to cram for long periods just once in a while. A good habit that can help you stay consistent is setting daily goals. These goals don't need to be huge, but they should challenge you enough to keep you engaged. For example, you could set a goal to learn 5 new words each day, or to write a short paragraph about your day in English every evening. The point is to make it a habit, so that over time, English becomes an integral part of your life. Here's another inspiring story. Carlos, a man from Brazil, wanted to improve his English to help him get a better job. He was motivated, but he found it hard to stay consistent. Sometimes he would practice for a few days and then stop, feeling discouraged because he wasn't seeing fast progress. But one day, Carlos made a promise to himself that he would practice English every single day, no matter what. To keep himself motivated, Carlos started using language learning apps that turned learning into a game. He'd complete daily challenges and earn points, He found that by making learning fun, he was able to stay consistent. Carlos also joined an online community where he could chat with other learners and exchange ideas. This not only helped him stay accountable, but also gave him a chance to practice his speaking and writing skills. After several months of consistent practice, Carlos found that his English had improved tremendously. He could now communicate confidently during job interviews, write emails to colleagues in English, and even understand English language movies without subtitles. Carlos got the job he wanted, and his confidence soared. Carlos's story shows us the importance of consistency and having fun with the learning process. When you make English a part of your everyday routine, it becomes easier and more enjoyable. And just like Carlos, you'll start seeing real results. Now, let's dive deeper into the importance of speaking and how it can transform your English. It's easy to focus on reading and writing, but speaking is where the magic truly happens. When you speak, you are forced to actively recall words, use proper sentence structures, and engage with the language in real time. A great way to practice speaking is by using language exchange platforms. These are websites or apps where you can connect with people who speak English and want to learn your language. It's a fantastic way to practice speaking in a real, conversational setting. Plus, you'll get to learn about different cultures, make new friends, and improve your speaking skills all at once. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone from another country. At first, you might feel nervous, unsure of your vocabulary or pronunciation. But as you keep talking, your confidence will grow. The more you practice speaking, the more natural it will feel. And soon, you'll be able to express yourself freely without worrying about making mistakes. This reminds me of the story of Julia, a woman who loved traveling and meeting new people. Julia was already fluent in her native language, but when it came to speaking English, she often felt self-conscious and struggled to find the right words. One day, while traveling in New York, Julia decided to join a conversation group where people from different countries met to practice speaking English. At first, Julia hesitated. She was afraid of making mistakes in front of others. But once she started speaking, she realized that everyone in the group was there to learn, just like her. The group was supportive, and no one judged each other. Julia started speaking more confidently, and with time she noticed that her English improved. She began engaging in deeper conversations, and eventually she was able to speak English as naturally as she did her own language. Julia's experience teaches us that it's okay to make mistakes when speaking. The more you speak, the more comfortable and confident you will become. Don't let fear hold you back. Every conversation is an opportunity to practice, learn, and grow. And if you're nervous about speaking to strangers, start small. You don't have to talk to a group of people right away. Begin by speaking to friends or family in English. If no one around you speaks English, try talking to yourself. Describe your day aloud or practice ordering food in English as if you were in a restaurant. The key is to practice speaking in a low-pressure environment before stepping into more challenging situations. Another tip for improving your speaking is to read aloud. Pick a short story, article, or even a song lyric in English and read it aloud. This helps you get comfortable with pronunciation and flow, and it also helps reinforce vocabulary and grammar rules. But remember, learning English is not just about speaking, it's about creating connections with others. The beauty of English is that it opens doors to meet people from all walks of life. Imagine how many new friendships you can make, how many cultures you can explore, and how many new opportunities you'll have just because you can speak the language. As we come to the end of this part of your journey, remember that every step you take, no matter how small, is progress. There's no need to rush. Learning English is about embracing the process and enjoying every moment of growth. Celebrate each word you master, each sentence you speak, and each mistake you make, because it's all part of the beautiful journey of becoming fluent. Every moment you spend learning, practicing, and improving your English brings you one step closer to achieving your dreams. The beauty of language learning is that it not only improves your skills, but it also opens up new ways of thinking, new perspectives, and a deeper understanding of the world around you. Think about the possibilities for a moment. Picture yourself traveling around the world, making new friends from all corners of the globe, and being able to communicate effortlessly in English, the universal language. Think of the new opportunities that will come your way: career advancements, academic achievements, and personal growth. These aren't just dreams, they're within your reach, and every word you learn brings you closer to them. And now, let's talk about the power of reading. While speaking and listening are vital for practical communication, reading is just as important. Reading helps you expand your vocabulary, learn new sentence structures, and improve your grammar in a natural and enjoyable way. By reading in English, you are exposed to a wide range of writing styles, tones, and vocabulary that you would not come across in everyday conversation. You can start by reading books or articles that interest you. Choose topics you're passionate about, whether it's history, science, fashion, or travel. As you read, take notes of new words and expressions that catch your attention. This is a great way to improve both your vocabulary and your comprehension skills. Don't be afraid to look up words you don't know. Over time, you'll find that you need to use the dictionary less and less as you become familiar with the language. Let's dive into the story of Tom, who loved technology and gadgets. Tom had always been fascinated by the latest advancements in technology, but he realized that many of the articles, reviews, and tutorials he wanted to read were in English. At first, he struggled with understanding some of the technical jargon and complex terms, but Tom didn't give up. Instead, he started reading more in English every day. He would read tech blogs, watch tech reviews, and even listen to podcasts about new gadgets all in English. As Tom's reading improved, so did his ability to understand technical concepts. He noticed that his vocabulary was growing, especially in the tech world, where English is often the dominant language. Soon, he could read entire articles without needing to look up every other word. And with his newfound language skills, Tom started writing his own tech blog in English. The feedback from readers was overwhelmingly positive, and he was even invited to collaborate with other tech writers around the world. Tom's story is a great example of how reading can transform your language skills, especially when you focus on topics that you love. The more you read, the more you'll improve, and the more you'll find yourself immersed in the English language. But let's not forget the power of patience. Learning a language, especially one as rich and complex as English, requires time. It's easy to feel frustrated when you don't see instant results, but remember that every small step you take is part of a bigger picture. Just as you can't build a house in one day, you can't master a language overnight. The key is to keep going, day after day, with the understanding that progress is gradual. One of the best ways to stay patient and motivated is by setting realistic goals. These goals don't have to be huge. Start small. Perhaps your goal is to speak for 5 minutes every day, or to read one chapter of a book each week. Once you achieve a goal, set a new one. Gradually increase your challenges, and soon you'll look back at how much you've accomplished. These small victories add up over time, and they will keep you motivated to continue your journey. Take, for example, the story of Elena. Elena had always wanted to improve her English, but she felt overwhelmed by the task. Every time she tried to study, she would get discouraged by how much she still needed to learn. But then Elena decided to break her goal into smaller, achievable steps. She set a goal to learn just 5 new words each day, and she practiced them by writing sentences and using them in conversations. At first it was slow, but after a few months, she noticed a big difference. Not only was her vocabulary much stronger, but she was also more confident when speaking. Elena's story highlights the importance of setting small, manageable goals. By focusing on achievable targets, you can avoid feeling overwhelmed and instead celebrate each step forward. Remember, each day you practice is a day closer to fluency. As we continue on this journey, it's important to recognize the power of reflection. Take a moment to look back at where you started and celebrate how far you've come. It's easy to get caught up in what you still need to learn, but reflecting on your progress can give you a sense of accomplishment and remind you of your strength and determination. For instance, consider the journey of Ahmed, who was a beginner in English just a year ago. At first, he couldn't even introduce himself without feeling nervous. But over time, Ahmed became more comfortable with simple phrases and eventually worked his way up to holding full conversations. Now, he can speak confidently at work, give presentations in English, and even write detailed emails without assistance. Looking back, Ahmed is amazed at how much he's achieved in such a short time. He realizes that his progress was the result of consistent practice and determination. Ahmed's story reminds us that language learning is not just about fluency, it's about growth. You are growing every day, even if it feels slow. Every time you speak, write, or read, you are improving and getting closer to mastering English. And let's not forget that making mistakes is a natural and necessary part of the process. Every successful language learner has made countless mistakes along the way. Mistakes are how we learn, and each one provides an opportunity for improvement. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are stepping stones on the path to success. Here's a thought to keep in mind. You are not just learning English, you are learning a new way to communicate with the world. Language is a tool that connects us to others. And by mastering English, you're unlocking a world full of possibilities. Whether it's connecting with people from different cultures, advancing in your career, or exploring new interests, English will be the key that opens all those doors. So, as you continue on this journey, remember that you are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. Every word you learn, every conversation you have, and every sentence you write brings you closer to your goal. There will be challenges along the way, but with determination and consistency, you will overcome them. The journey of language learning doesn't stop. It evolves. It takes you on paths you never expected, unveiling parts of yourself you may not have known existed. Every step forward is a triumph. And no matter where you are in your English learning journey, you are making progress real, meaningful progress. Now, let's take a moment to think about how English is more than just a language. It's a bridge to other cultures, a gateway to opportunities, and a tool for personal transformation. By learning English, you're not just acquiring vocabulary and grammar rules. You are opening your mind to new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing the world. You're able to access global knowledge, communicate with diverse people, and unlock career opportunities that would have once seemed impossible. Think about it, English is spoken by millions of people around the world, and it's the primary language of business, science, technology, and culture. The possibilities it offers are limitless. With a strong command of English, you can engage in global conversations, access international markets, and even collaborate with professionals from all over the world. Whether you're seeking career advancement, academic success, or personal growth, English has the potential to be the key that unlocks your dreams. Take, for instance, the story of Claire, a young woman from a small town who always dreamed of working in international relations. However, Claire struggled with English. She felt her accent was too strong, her vocabulary too limited, and she often hesitated when speaking. But she didn't let her doubts hold her back. She made the decision to focus on improving her English for one simple reason: she knew that if she didn't, she would miss out on her dream career. Claire began by practicing English every day. She started with simple sentences and gradually worked her way up to more complex topics. She read books in English, listened to podcasts, and even joined an international volunteer organization where she could practice speaking with people from different countries. Over time, Claire's confidence grew. She no longer hesitated to speak, and her English began to flow more naturally. Fast forward to a few years later, Claire is now working at the United Nations, engaging with professionals from all over the world. She credits her success to her dedication to learning English and the determination to push through her initial fears. Her story is a testament to the power of language in shaping our futures. She didn't just learn English, she used it to build a career and a life she had once only dreamed about. Claire's story illustrates the broader point: English is not just an academic skill or an abstract goal. It's a transformative tool that has the power to change your life. It's a skill that opens doors to endless opportunities, enabling you to participate in global conversations, understand different perspectives, and access knowledge from every corner of the world. And now, as we look ahead, let's talk about one of the most powerful aspects of language learning: the power of connection. Language is a way to build relationships. When you speak in English, you're not just using words, you're connecting with others. You're showing the world that you care enough to engage, to understand, and to be part of something larger than yourself. Think of how many lives you can touch with your English skills. Every time you speak or write in English, you are building bridges between yourself and others. Whether you're making friends from other countries, building professional networks, or just having a casual conversation, English enables you to create connections that might have seemed impossible before. I want to share the story of David, an English learner who used language as a tool to connect with people around the world. David, originally from Argentina, had always been passionate about traveling. He loved learning about new cultures, meeting new people, and experiencing the world in all its diversity. But one thing stood in his way: his limited English skills. He struggled to have deep, meaningful conversations with people who spoke only English. He was frustrated, feeling that language was the only barrier between him and the full experience of the world. But instead of giving up, David decided to take control of the situation. He enrolled in an online English course and started practicing speaking every day. He used apps, watched movies, and listened to podcasts. He even joined online communities of travelers where he could chat with like-minded people. With every conversation, David felt more connected to the world. He no longer had to rely on translations or rely on others to speak for him. He was able to engage in rich conversations, learn from people with different experiences, and share his own stories in English. Through his dedication, David not only improved his language skills but also broadened his horizons. He traveled to many new countries, meeting people from different cultures and backgrounds. His ability to communicate in English transformed his life, and he gained so much more from his travels because of it. David's story is proof that English is more than just a skill, it's a way to connect deeply with the world. So, as you continue your own journey, remember that English is a tool that helps you make meaningful connections. Whether it's talking to a stranger, collaborating with colleagues, or sharing your ideas with the world, English helps you build relationships that enrich your life. Now, let's dive into the final piece of the puzzle, the power of self-belief. It's easy to feel discouraged at times, especially when you encounter difficulties or feel like your progress is slower than you'd like. But in those moments, remember that belief in yourself is the key to overcoming any challenge. You see, learning English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary. It's about believing that you are capable of mastering it. The journey may be long, and there will be moments of doubt, but your determination will carry you through. Think back to all the times you've succeeded in the past. Learning a language is no different. With patience, persistence, and belief in your abilities, you can achieve anything. Take the story of Lena, a woman from Syria who started learning English in her early 20s. When she first began, she felt overwhelmed by how much she didn't know. She was intimidated by the complexity of the language and often questioned her ability to succeed. But Lena refused to let self-doubt control her. She set small, achievable goals, practiced every day, and slowly built her confidence. As her skills grew, so did her belief in herself. Eventually, Lena moved to the United States to pursue her studies, and her ability to speak English opened up a world of opportunities. She excelled in her classes, made lifelong friendships, and even landed an internship at a major tech company. Looking back, Lena now understands that the biggest hurdle she overcame wasn't the language, it was her own fear of failure. Once she started believing in her ability to succeed, everything else fell into place. Lena's story is a reminder that self-belief is the most important ingredient in any learning journey. When you believe in yourself, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. The challenges you face will become stepping stones, and each mistake will be a lesson that brings you closer to your goal. Believe in your potential, trust in the process, and keep moving forward. As we continue down this road together, keep this in mind: you are capable of great things. Your English-speaking journey may have its ups and downs, but with persistence, practice, and a strong belief in yourself, you will get there. The language you're learning is not just a means of communication, it's a tool for transformation. It will open up opportunities, forge new connections, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Let's remind ourselves that the path to fluency in English isn't just about memorizing words or understanding grammar rules. It's about growth, resilience, and embracing every small victory along the way. Every time you learn a new word or construct a better sentence, you're not just adding to your vocabulary, you are expanding your ability to connect, communicate, and express yourself more effectively. There will be moments of doubt, of course. Times when you feel stuck or frustrated, when you think to yourself, why isn't this working as fast as I hoped? But let me tell you, those moments are just a part of the process. Every single learner, from the most fluent speaker to those who are just beginning, has faced those moments. The difference is that those who succeed are the ones who keep going. They don't give up. They embrace the difficulty because they know that with each challenge comes growth. Think about how far you've already come. You might not be at your final destination yet, but you've made incredible progress already. Look back at your first attempt at speaking English. Think about how many words you didn't understand, how many phrases you struggled to say, and how many times you felt unsure of yourself. And now look at how much you've learned. Each challenge you've overcome has made you stronger. And soon you'll be speaking, writing, and thinking in English as if it were second nature. This journey is a marathon, not a sprint. Some days will be easy and others will be hard. But every step forward is worth celebrating. So whenever you feel frustrated or discouraged, remind yourself, I'm not here to be perfect, I'm here to get better. Mistakes are part of the journey, and each one is a stepping stone toward mastery. Embrace them with grace, and don't let fear of failure hold you back. Now, let's look at the role of patience and practice in your language learning. No one becomes fluent overnight. It takes time, and that's okay. What matters most is that you are consistently showing up, dedicating even a few minutes every day to practice. Consistency is more important than intensity. You don't need to spend hours studying every day, just make it a habit. Whether it's reading a few pages of a book, listening to a podcast, or having a short conversation with a friend, every bit counts. As you keep up with your practice, you'll start to notice the gradual improvements, and eventually, it will all come together. The real magic happens when you start to think in English. At first, learning a language feels like translating in your head. You think in your native language, then translate into English, and then speak. But as your skills improve, something amazing happens. You begin to think directly in English, and that's when speaking becomes fluid, effortless, and natural. For example, let's talk about Raj, who grew up in India speaking Hindi. He initially struggled with English, especially when it came to thinking directly in the language. He often found himself translating from Hindi to English in his head before speaking, which made conversations feel slow and unnatural. But Raj didn't let that stop him. He began practicing small conversations, watching English TV shows, and reading English books every day. Over time, something shifted. He noticed that he was able to respond more quickly without translating every sentence in his mind. Slowly but surely, Raj started thinking in English, and his ability to speak improved dramatically. What had once been a struggle became a joyful experience, and now Raj speaks with ease in both his personal and professional life. Raj's story shows that language learning is a process that takes time, but when you practice regularly and consistently, your brain will eventually adapt. You'll stop translating in your mind and start to truly think and feel in English. This is a powerful milestone on your journey, and it shows you that you are moving closer to fluency. In the world of language learning, exposure is another key factor. The more you surround yourself with English, the faster you will learn. Immersing yourself in English doesn't mean you need to live in an English-speaking country or attend expensive classes. It means finding ways to engage with English every day, even in small ways. For instance, you can watch English movies and TV shows with subtitles. Start with your favorite movies, and then try to watch them without the subtitles as you become more confident. You can listen to English music and try to understand the lyrics. You can also follow social media accounts or blogs in English that interest you. Whether it's news, entertainment, or sports, find topics that excite you and immerse yourself in them in English. This constant exposure will help you pick up new words, phrases, and structures that you can use in your own speech. Sarah, a young woman from Spain, was able to improve her English by immersing herself in music. Sarah loved listening to pop music, so she decided to focus on learning the lyrics in English. At first, she didn't understand everything, but she was determined to figure it out. She'd listen to her favorite songs over and over, singing along and looking up the words she didn't know. Slowly but surely, her vocabulary expanded and her pronunciation improved. The more she listened, the better she became at understanding spoken English, and it didn't take long before Sarah could easily understand English songs without needing to look up the lyrics. This is just one example of how you can surround yourself with English and make learning fun. By integrating English into your daily life, you can practice without feeling like it's a chore. Language learning doesn't always need to be formal sometimes. It's about making English a part of the things you already enjoy. And if you ever feel like you're not progressing as quickly as you'd like, remember that language learning isn't just about mastering vocabulary and grammar. It's about the small moments of connection. Every time you engage with someone in English, whether it's ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or sharing a joke with a friend, you're building your skills. These moments are invaluable, and each one strengthens your confidence. When you look at your language learning journey, think about the conversations you've had, the connections you've made, and the ways you've expressed yourself. Each one is a sign of your progress. Even if you still make mistakes, those are just steps on the road to fluency. They show that you're trying, learning, and growing. Take, for example, the story of Luca, a student from Italy who always found it difficult to speak English fluently. He was nervous about making mistakes, so he often avoided speaking in English, even though he understood the language well. But one day, he decided to challenge himself. He joined an English-speaking club at his university and committed to speaking only in English for 1 hour each week. At first, Luca stumbled over his words, and he felt embarrassed by his mistakes. But the other students were supportive, and over time, Luca became more comfortable. He was no longer afraid to speak. With each conversation, his fluency grew, and soon he was engaging in discussions with ease. Luca's journey is a reminder that every step you take counts, even if it feels small. Every conversation is progress. Every mistake is part of learning. And every moment of hesitation is simply a part of your transformation into a confident English speaker. So, as you continue learning and practicing, remember this: the key to success is persistence, patience, and most importantly, self-belief. You are capable of achieving anything you set your mind to. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself. The world is waiting for you to share your voice in English, and there's nothing stopping you from reaching your full potential. As we move forward, let's take a moment to reflect on why the journey of learning English is so important, not just for fluency, but for personal development. In the process of learning a new language, you're doing more than just memorizing words or structures. You're developing resilience, patience, and problem-solving skills that will serve you well in every aspect of your life. Think about it: every time you face a challenge in your language learning, whether it's understanding a complex sentence or having trouble with pronunciation, you are exercising your brain in new ways. Your mind is expanding, building neural connections, and becoming stronger. In fact, studies have shown that learning a new language can improve your cognitive abilities, increase memory retention, and even enhance creativity. This means that by practicing English, you're not just preparing for future conversations, but you're actively improving your brain power. Learning a new language is like a workout for your brain. It makes you smarter, more flexible, and more adaptable. The skills you develop while learning English will help you tackle other challenges in your life with confidence and determination. It's a true example of how growth in one area language can lead to growth in many others. Let's talk about how learning English can give you a deeper understanding of yourself. The way we speak is closely tied to the way we think. When you begin to speak English more fluently, you start to express yourself in ways you never imagined. You might find that your thoughts become clearer, your emotions are easier to articulate, and your ability to communicate with others improves dramatically. But what's even more amazing is that as you learn, you start to view the world differently. The English language has a unique structure with its own set of rules and ways of thinking. When you learn English, you begin to understand the nuances of how ideas are expressed and how meanings are conveyed in different contexts. You start to see how cultural expressions and perspectives are embedded in language. In this way, learning English becomes an enriching experience that expands your worldview. Think about the first time you encountered an English poem, a book, or a movie in English. At first, it might have seemed challenging, but as you improved, you began to pick up on the beauty of the language, the rhythm of the words, the power of storytelling, the depth of meaning hidden behind every phrase. That's the magic of language. The more you learn, the more you see the world in its full richness. The stories, the cultures, the histories, all of it becomes more vivid and real. But let's also not forget the practical side of language learning. We live in an interconnected world. Having the ability to speak English is not just a personal achievement, it's an asset in today's globalized economy. Think about the doors that open when you can communicate effectively in English. It's not just about traveling, reading books, or watching movies, though those are certainly amazing perks. It's about career advancement, job opportunities, and professional success. In fact, research shows that people who are fluent in English have access to better job prospects and higher salaries. Many companies today are looking for individuals who can communicate effectively with colleagues and clients around the world. If you're working in fields like technology, business, healthcare, or education, the ability to speak English is often a requirement. The world is becoming more interconnected, and those who can speak English have a distinct advantage. But even beyond the job market, think about how English can enrich your personal life. It opens the door to meeting new people, making friends from different countries, and experiencing cultures in ways you never thought possible. Language is a bridge between people. When you can speak someone's language, you connect with them in a more meaningful way. You understand their world, their experiences, their stories. Take, for example, John, an engineer from the United Kingdom who traveled to Japan for work. At first, he could only communicate with his colleagues in broken Japanese, and he often felt frustrated by the language barrier. But after several months of learning English and practicing with others, John found himself able to communicate much more effectively. He could participate in meetings, exchange ideas, and understand his Japanese colleagues' perspectives more clearly. This not only helped him in his job, but it also led to lasting friendships. John's ability to speak English was a key part of his success, both professionally and personally. Now, it's important to address one more crucial point on your English learning journey: motivation. Learning a new language can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially when you don't see immediate results. But if you stay focused on your goals, you will get there. Remember, the reason why you started this journey is important. Whether it's for career opportunities, personal growth, or simply because you love the language, keep that motivation in mind every time you practice. Set small, achievable goals that will keep you motivated along the way. Maybe it's learning 10 new words each week, practicing your pronunciation with a friend, or watching an English movie without subtitles. Each of these goals brings you one step closer to fluency. And don't forget to celebrate the little victories, whether it's having your first full conversation in English or understanding a news article without looking up every word. These milestones matter. And when the going gets tough, remember why you're doing it. Think about the possibilities that open up when you master English. Think about the new people you'll meet, the opportunities you'll create, and the personal growth you'll experience. You are investing in your future, and that investment will pay off in ways you can't even imagine yet. Now, let's address the role of community in your language learning process. One of the best ways to improve your English is by surrounding yourself with people who speak the language. Join a language learning group, whether online or in person, where you can practice with others. Engaging in conversations with native speakers or fellow learners will provide you with valuable real-life practice. Consider the story of Mia, a college student who struggled with English for years. She was intimidated by speaking in front of others and was constantly worried about making mistakes. But Mia didn't give up. She joined an English language meetup group where people from different backgrounds gathered to practice speaking. At first, she felt nervous and self-conscious, but as time went on, she became more comfortable. The group was supportive, and they encouraged her to keep speaking, even if it meant making mistakes. Mia soon found herself speaking more confidently and understanding English in new ways. The community she became a part of was a crucial part of her success. This is a powerful reminder learning a language doesn't have to be a solitary endeavor. When you have a supportive community around you, you'll find encouragement, accountability, and inspiration. You're not alone in this journey, and together we grow stronger. The next step in your journey is to remember that every word you speak, every sentence you construct, is an achievement. You are making progress every single day, whether you realize it or not. The key to fluency is not perfection, it's persistence. Keep practicing. Keep learning. Keep pushing forward. And know that with every step you take, you are getting closer to your goal. As we wrap up today's journey, I want to leave you with this thought: language is more than just words. It's the gateway to understanding the world and connecting with people. English is not just a skill, it's a bridge to new experiences, new friendships, and new opportunities. And it's a journey worth taking. This is the secret ingredient that makes everything work. You see, learning English, or any language for that matter, is like planting a seed. It takes time for that seed to grow into something strong and beautiful, but the key is nurturing it every single day. Consistency doesn't mean you need to study for hours every day. In fact, small daily habits can have a huge impact. Whether it's speaking for 5 minutes with a friend, listening to a podcast while you're cooking, or reading a few pages of a book, these little actions add up over time. The more you expose yourself to the language, the faster you will improve. Take the story of Carlos, for example. Carlos was a busy professional working long hours in a fast-paced job. He didn't have much time to dedicate to studying English, but he didn't let that stop him. He set a simple goal to spend 10 minutes a day on English. He would listen to an English podcast on his way to work, repeat phrases out loud, and try to read a few short articles during his lunch break. Over the course of months, Carlos found that those 10 minutes each day had a huge impact on his skills. His vocabulary grew, his listening became sharper, and soon he was confidently holding conversations with clients in English. Carlos' story shows us that consistency is key. It's not about how much time you spend, it's about showing up every day and making a little bit of progress. Over time, those small steps will lead to incredible results. You'll look back one day and realize how much you've achieved simply because you kept practicing, no matter how small the effort seemed at the time. But let's not forget another crucial part of this journey: embracing mistakes. Mistakes are not something to fear or avoid, they are essential to the learning process. Every time you make a mistake, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. Think of it as stepping closer to your goal. The more you make mistakes, the more you understand the language, and the faster you learn. Imagine you're driving a car for the first time. You might make a few wrong turns or forget to signal, but with each mistake you become more skilled and confident. Eventually, driving becomes second nature. The same goes for learning English. At first, it might feel uncomfortable or awkward, but as you keep making mistakes, you'll get better and more confident with every conversation. Consider the story of Emma, a student from Brazil who was learning English to pursue her dream of studying abroad. When Emma first started speaking, she was afraid of making mistakes. She would often stop herself mid-sentence, unsure if she was using the correct words or grammar. But Emma realized that in order to improve, she needed to face her fear. She began speaking as much as possible, even when she wasn't sure if her sentences were perfect. And guess what? With each conversation, her confidence grew, and so did her ability to communicate. The more she practiced, the less she feared making mistakes. In fact, she began to see mistakes as part of her growth. Eventually, Emma was accepted into a prestigious university in an English-speaking country. All because she didn't give up, despite the initial struggles. The truth is, if you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. So, don't shy away from challenges. Embrace them. Each mistake is a valuable lesson that brings you closer to fluency. Now, let's talk about the power of listening. If you want to improve your speaking skills, you need to listen actively. Listening is not just about hearing the words, it's about understanding the rhythm, tone, and emotion behind them. When you listen to native speakers, whether in movies, podcasts, or conversations, you start to pick up on these subtle details that will make your own speech sound more natural. Take a moment to imagine yourself walking through a bustling street in New York City, surrounded by conversations in English. People are speaking quickly, but you can understand the main points. You hear different accents, varying tones and expressions. You begin to notice how people emphasize certain words, how their sentences flow, and how they pause to create meaning. This is the power of listening. It helps you understand how the language works in real-life situations. By practicing active listening, you not only improve your comprehension but also your speaking skills. Think about Julia, an avid traveler who wanted to speak better English. She started watching English news broadcasts and listening to podcasts during her daily commute. At first, it was challenging to understand everything, but as she listened more, she began to notice patterns in the language. Her ability to understand English speakers improved, and she started using new phrases in her own conversations. The more she listened, the more her confidence grew. Eventually, she was able to converse easily with English speakers from different parts of the world. Listening helps you internalize the language. It exposes you to different accents, vocabulary, and ways of expression. It helps you become more attuned to how the language sounds, so that you can reproduce it with more confidence and ease. Reading is another powerful tool for language learning. When you read in English, you're exposing yourself to new words, phrases, and sentence structures that you can incorporate into your own speech. Reading also helps you understand the cultural context behind the language, which is essential for truly mastering it. Think about it: every book, every article, every blog post you read is an opportunity to expand your knowledge and improve your English. You don't have to start with complex texts. Begin with something that interests you. It could be a novel, a magazine, or even a children's book. The more you read, the better you'll get. Soon, you'll be able to understand more advanced material, and your vocabulary will grow exponentially. Take the story of Ahmed, who came from a small village where English wasn't commonly spoken. He struggled with reading and understanding English at first, but he loved sports. So Ahmed started reading sports articles in English. Little by little, his vocabulary grew, and he became more confident in his reading skills. As he read more, he started writing more as well, practicing the new words and expressions he had learned. Eventually, Ahmed's reading skills improved to the point where he was able to read complex texts without any difficulty. The key is to make reading a habit. Even just a few minutes every day can make a huge difference. The more you read, the more familiar you'll become with how English is used in different contexts. In addition to listening and reading, speaking is the most direct way to improve your English. Many learners hesitate to speak because they're afraid of making mistakes or sounding silly. But speaking is the fastest way to improve your fluency. It forces you to think quickly, practice what you've learned, and use the language in real-life situations. So, how can you practice speaking if you don't always have someone to talk to? Here are a few ideas. Speak to yourself, practice speaking aloud, even if you're just describing what you're doing. For example, while cooking dinner, you can say, "Now I'm chopping the onions." After that, "I'll boil the water for the pasta." This may feel a bit strange at first, but it's a great way to practice sentence construction and pronunciation. Find a language partner you can join online forums or language exchange websites where you can practice speaking with native English speakers or other learners. These conversations don't need to be perfect. They're just opportunities for you to speak and get comfortable with the language. Record yourself sometimes. It can be helpful to record your voice and listen to it. This allows you to hear where you might need improvement, and you can track your progress over time. Remember, the more you speak, the better you will get. So, challenge yourself to speak English every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Learning English is not a race, and it's certainly not about perfection. It's about taking consistent, small steps each day to improve. The more you practice, the more you will grow. So, let's continue this journey together, knowing that every effort counts and that each new word you learn brings you closer to fluency. Now, take a moment to celebrate how far you've come. Every challenge you faced has made you stronger. Every mistake has taught you something valuable. And with every word you speak, you are growing closer to your goal. As you move forward on this exciting journey of learning English, let's take a step back and reflect on something crucial: confidence. Confidence in speaking, listening, reading, and writing is the backbone of your progress. It's easy to feel discouraged when you hit a roadblock, but remember that confidence is built over time through consistent effort, mistakes, and growth. One of the most common barriers learners face is the fear of making mistakes. Many people hold back from speaking because they are afraid they might sound incorrect or awkward. But here's the truth: everyone makes mistakes, even the most fluent speakers. Mistakes are part of the process, not something to be ashamed of. Every time you make a mistake, you're learning. And each mistake is a stepping stone towards mastery. Consider how babies learn to speak. They don't begin by speaking perfectly. They start with babbling, then words, then simple sentences, making mistakes along the way. But over time, with practice and exposure, they master the language. You are doing the same thing. The key is to be patient with yourself and to practice regularly. Just like building physical muscle at the gym, your language muscles get stronger with every repetition. So each time you use English, whether in a sentence, conversation, or even thought, you are building your fluency. The more you use it, the more confident you become. Let's talk about immersing yourself in the language. One of the most effective ways to improve your English skills is to surround yourself with the language. Immersion might sound daunting, but it doesn't require a move to an English-speaking country or drastic changes in your life. You can immerse yourself in small ways like watching movies or TV shows in English, listening to English music, reading news articles in English, or even following social media accounts that use English. The goal is to keep the language around you as much as possible. By exposing yourself to English in various contexts, you begin to internalize how the language flows. You'll start to recognize patterns, learn new vocabulary, and get a sense of how people use English in everyday life. Over time, these little exposures add up, and before you know it, your English comprehension and speaking abilities will improve. For example, Maria from Mexico loved watching romantic comedies, but she always watched them in Spanish. One day, she decided to watch her favorite movie in English with English subtitles. At first, she could hardly understand what the characters were saying, but she didn't give up. Slowly, she started to recognize familiar words and phrases. Then, she began to understand whole sentences. Maria started to pick up on nuances in the language, like how tone of voice can change the meaning of a sentence. Over time, her English skills improved, and soon she could watch movies in English without subtitles. This immersion method became one of her favorite ways to practice. In the same way, you can immerse yourself in English and watch how quickly you start to understand more. The exposure will help you develop a more natural feel for the language and build a stronger vocabulary. Another powerful tip is to set clear goals. One of the best ways to stay motivated is to set specific, measurable, and achievable goals for yourself. Instead of simply saying, "I want to improve my English," break it down into smaller, more tangible objectives. For instance, you might set a goal like, "I will learn and use 5 new English words each week," or "I will have 1 conversation in English every week, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Another great goal could be, "I will listen to 1 English podcast each day while I commute." These goals are small, but they are realistic, and they give you something concrete to work toward. When you accomplish these smaller goals, you'll feel a sense of achievement. This helps to build momentum, and the next goal will feel even more attainable. The more goals you set and accomplish, the more confident you'll become in your English skills. Think about Raj, who decided to start by focusing on speaking. He set a goal to speak English for at least 10 minutes every day with a language partner. At first, he felt nervous and unsure of himself, but as he continued with his practice, he started to feel more comfortable. Within a few weeks, Raj realized that his speaking skills had improved significantly. He wasn't perfect, but his confidence in speaking was much stronger. When you focus on one goal at a time and celebrate your progress along the way, you create a positive cycle of improvement. And soon, you'll find that your confidence grows along with your skills. Reading is another cornerstone of language learning. When you read in English, you expose yourself to new words, structures, and idiomatic expressions. But reading isn't just about learning new vocabulary. It's also about seeing the language in context. You can understand how words work together in sentences and how ideas are expressed in English. A great way to start reading is by choosing books, articles, or blogs that interest you. This will keep you motivated and make the learning process enjoyable. For example, if you're passionate about technology, try reading articles or books about the latest advancements in the field. If you love cooking, look up recipes or cooking blogs in English. The more you read in areas you enjoy, the easier it will be to stick with it. Reading also exposes you to different types of English. You may come across informal language in social media posts, formal language in business articles, or creative language in novels. All of these different forms of English will help you become more versatile in how you use the language. One tip when reading is to underline or note down new words you come across. Try to use them in your daily conversations or writing. This will reinforce your learning and help you retain the new vocabulary. In addition to reading, you can also try writing. Writing is an excellent way to practice English because it forces you to think about sentence structure, grammar, and vocabulary. Even if you're not planning to become a writer, journaling in English or writing short essays or emails can significantly improve your skills. Start small. You could write about your day, describe a place you visited, or tell a story. The more you practice writing in English, the more comfortable you'll become with constructing sentences and expressing your thoughts. Many learners find it helpful to keep an English journal. In this journal, you can write about anything that interests you. The key is to write regularly, and don't worry too much about making mistakes. Focus on expressing your ideas clearly. As you keep writing, you'll notice improvement in your vocabulary and your ability to structure sentences. And when you look back at your journal months from now, you'll see just how much progress you've made. We also cannot underestimate the importance of pronunciation in speaking English fluently. Pronunciation is an area that many learners overlook, but it can make a big difference in how well you communicate. If people can't understand you because of unclear pronunciation, it can make conversations frustrating for both you and your listeners. A great way to improve pronunciation is by listening and mimicking. Pay attention to how native speakers pronounce words and try to imitate them. Record yourself and listen for any areas where your pronunciation could improve. Practice words that you find difficult and use them in your daily conversations. Over time, you will notice improvements in your clarity and confidence. It might also help to focus on intonation, the rise and fall of your voice while speaking. Intonation can change the meaning of a sentence. For example, "You're going" with a rising tone can sound like a question, while "you're going" with a falling tone is a statement. Practicing intonation will help your speech sound more natural and fluid. As we draw closer to the end of this journey, remember that learning English is not about reaching perfection, it's about progress. Every step you take, every word you learn, every sentence you speak brings you closer to your goal. So, embrace the process. Celebrate every small victory along the way, because each one is an essential part of your success. The path to fluency may have its challenges, but it's also filled with beautiful discoveries and moments of growth. The more you learn, the more confident you'll become. Keep pushing forward, knowing that with every bit of effort, you're getting closer to mastering English. So, let's continue this journey together. One step at a time. Keep practicing. Keep learning. Keep improving. Your future self will thank you for the dedication you put in today. The best is yet to come. Let's turn our focus to a crucial aspect of language acquisition: motivation. Motivation is the fuel that keeps the fire of learning burning, especially when things feel tough or progress seems slow. Motivation can be the difference between continuing on the path of improvement and giving up. It's common to experience moments when you feel like you're not progressing, or you might get frustrated with how hard it seems. But remember this: learning a language is not a sprint, it's a marathon. No one becomes fluent overnight. It takes time, patience, and persistent effort. So, how do you stay motivated on this long journey? One of the best ways to stay motivated is by setting clear personal reasons for learning English. Think about why you want to learn the language. Do you want to travel the world and communicate with people from different cultures? Do you want to advance your career and open up new job opportunities? Do you want to read books, watch movies, or enjoy music in their original English form? When you understand your personal why, you create a deeper connection to your language learning. This connection will keep you going even on the tough days when it feels like nothing is happening. Take the example of Samira, who always dreamt of becoming an international businesswoman. She realized that English was essential for her career goals. She visualized herself speaking confidently in meetings, reading business reports in English, and negotiating deals with clients from around the world. This vision gave her the motivation to push through difficult days, even when she felt overwhelmed. Whenever she felt discouraged, she reminded herself of the bigger picture: her dreams were worth the effort. Another way to stay motivated is by breaking down the learning process into smaller, more manageable chunks. Instead of focusing on the end goal of fluency, focus on short-term goals and celebrate the small wins along the way. This approach helps you feel a sense of accomplishment and gives you the energy to continue learning. For example, set weekly or monthly goals, such as learning 10 new words, having a 5-minute conversation with a native speaker, or finishing a short book in English. These goals are realistic and measurable, and each time you achieve one, it builds your confidence. Over time, these small victories will add up, and before you know it, you'll see dramatic improvements. Also, embrace variety in your language learning activities. When learning becomes monotonous, it's easy to lose interest. But if you mix up your learning methods, such as listening to music, watching TV shows, reading books, playing language games, or speaking with friends, you'll keep things exciting and fun. The key is to make learning English a part of your daily life without feeling like a chore. Take Jake's experience, for instance. He was tired of traditional methods like grammar exercises and textbooks, so he decided to explore language learning in a more interactive way. He joined an English-speaking group, played language learning games, and even participated in English karaoke. He found that learning didn't have to be serious all the time. In fact, the more fun he had with English, the more natural and easy it became. There's also the power of community to keep you motivated. You don't have to learn English alone. Find a group of people who are also passionate about improving their language skills. This could be an online language exchange group, a class at your local community center, or even a group of friends who are also learning English. Having people around you who share your goals provides encouragement, support, and a sense of accountability. Think of the story of Ahmed and Raj, who met in an online language exchange group. They decided to practice English together every week, helping each other with vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. Through their mutual support, they stayed motivated and kept pushing each other to improve. The sense of camaraderie kept them on track, and soon they were both much more confident in their English speaking abilities. Another powerful motivator is rewarding yourself. When you reach a goal, whether it's mastering a difficult word, having a conversation in English, or finishing a book, treat yourself. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. This positive reinforcement encourages you to keep moving forward. For example, after completing a week of language practice, you could treat yourself to your favorite food, take a day off to relax, or buy yourself something special. These rewards remind you that learning English is a rewarding experience in itself. Let's also talk about mindset. Your approach to learning makes all the difference. If you view English as something you have to do, it may feel like a burden. But if you shift your mindset and view learning English as something exciting and full of opportunities, your motivation will skyrocket. Embrace the process. Instead of focusing on perfection, focus on progress. The fact that you're learning, improving, and pushing yourself is something to be proud of. This reminds me of Lily, a young woman from China who had always felt discouraged by her language skills. She would compare herself to others who spoke English perfectly and feel like she was never good enough. But one day, she decided to change her mindset. Instead of trying to be perfect, she focused on having fun and celebrating her progress. She started speaking to strangers in English, joining local English meetups, and reading books for fun. Her new mindset helped her improve faster than she ever imagined, and soon she was confident enough to speak to anyone in English. It's important to remember that language learning is a lifelong journey. Even when you become fluent, there's always more to learn. You'll continue to encounter new vocabulary, slang, and idioms. You'll keep improving, and there will always be opportunities to use English in exciting new ways. Let's take a moment to talk about real-life scenarios where English opens doors. Imagine being on a trip to a foreign country and meeting someone who speaks English. Being able to have a conversation with them, ask for directions, or make a new friend, these simple interactions can turn a trip into a memorable adventure. English isn't just a tool for business or study. It's also a way to connect with the world around you, to broaden your horizons, and to experience life in richer ways. Think about it: every time you speak English, you are expanding your world. You're opening doors to new experiences, new people, and new opportunities. This is the beauty of learning a language. It allows you to step outside your bubble and connect with a much larger community. And speaking of connections, English is not just for native speakers. It's a global language, spoken by millions of people around the world. You might meet someone from a completely different culture or country, and the common ground between you might be the English language. This shared language allows you to collaborate, exchange ideas, and build friendships, no matter where you are. English has the power to unite people across borders and cultures, making it an essential skill in today's interconnected world. Let's pause and think about how far you've come. You may have started your English learning journey with a few words or phrases, and now you're learning new grammar rules, having conversations, and experiencing the world in a way that would have been impossible without English. Every day, you're becoming more capable and confident in your language skills. This is something to be proud of. Remember, the process may feel slow at times, but progress is happening. Even when you don't notice it, you're growing. And each time you speak or listen in English, you're getting closer to your goal. So, don't stop now. Keep going. Every step you take is a victory. To end this journey, here's a beautiful thought: the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step This quote reminds us that every great achievement starts with a small action, just like learning English. It may seem like a long road, but with each word you learn, with each conversation you have, you're getting closer to your destination. The key is to keep moving forward step by step, day by day. It is said that habits are the foundation of success. The same holds true for language learning. The more consistent you are, the faster and more naturally your skills will develop. Building the right habits doesn't mean you need to dedicate hours each day to studying. The key to success is regular practice. It's about making English a part of your daily life, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. Imagine this: you wake up every morning and spend 10 minutes reviewing new vocabulary, or you spend 5 minutes speaking English in front of the mirror. Over time, these small daily actions will accumulate into huge improvements. The best part about creating habits is that they don't feel like hard work. After a few weeks, these activities will become second nature. You won't have to remind yourself to practice, you'll just do it. And before you know it, you'll see how much your English has improved. Take Sarah, for example. She always struggled to find time to practice English because of her busy work schedule. But instead of waiting for the perfect time, she started dedicating just 10 minutes each morning to learn something new, whether it was a few new words, a short podcast, or a grammar exercise. Within a couple of months, Sarah noticed significant progress in her fluency, and soon she was able to have conversations effortlessly. That small habit changed everything for her. To make this habit-building process easier, consider using reminders. It could be setting an alarm on your phone or creating a daily checklist that you can tick off. You could even use apps like Duolingo, Memrise, or Anki to track your progress and keep you engaged with the language. But most importantly, make sure to reward yourself whenever you stick to your practice. Rewards create a positive feedback loop, motivating you to keep going. Let's talk about setting realistic expectations. Many language learners set themselves up for disappointment by expecting too much too soon. The truth is, becoming fluent in a new language takes time. You will face challenges along the way, and some days may feel more difficult than others. But remember that perfection is not the goal, progress is. Even the most fluent speakers make mistakes from time to time. What sets them apart is their willingness to keep going and their belief that they are constantly improving. Fluency is not a destination, but a journey. Every day that you practice, you are getting better, even if the improvements seem small. Those small steps add up to bigger strides in the long run. Take Michael, who dreamed of speaking perfect English like his favorite celebrities. He often felt frustrated because he wasn't improving as quickly as he wanted. But over time, he learned to embrace the journey. He focused on progress, not perfection. Instead of getting discouraged when he made a mistake, he viewed it as an opportunity to learn. Michael now speaks with confidence, and while he still makes the occasional error, he understands that these mistakes are just part of the process. His mindset shift made all the difference. To support your learning, it's essential to reflect on your progress regularly. This reflection can be incredibly motivating. It's easy to forget how far you've come, especially when you're focused on how much you still need to learn. But take a step back every so often and look at where you started. Maybe you could only introduce yourself in English a few months ago, but now you can have full conversations. Or perhaps you couldn't understand English movies at first, but now you enjoy them without subtitles. These are all milestones that deserve celebration. One powerful way to reflect is by keeping a language learning journal. In this journal, you can track the new words you've learned, the grammar rules you've mastered, and the progress you've made. You could also write about any challenges you're facing and how you plan to overcome them. This journal becomes a powerful reminder of your achievements and helps you stay motivated during tough times. Another secret to improving your English is to learn from those who speak it fluently. You don't need to find a perfect mentor, but you can learn a lot by observing native speakers in action. Watch their body language, pay attention to how they use words, and note how they form sentences. Listening to and mimicking the way fluent speakers talk will help you improve not only your vocabulary but also your understanding of how the language works in real-world situations. For instance, if you're watching a TV show in English, don't just focus on the words. Listen to how the actors interact with each other. Notice the tone of their voice, the pauses they take, and the expressions they use. You can even pause and repeat after them, practicing their intonation and pronunciation. This technique will bring your spoken English closer to how it's used in everyday conversations. Let's also address the importance of having fun while learning English. Learning doesn't have to feel like a chore. In fact, the more enjoyable you make it, the more effective it will be. Try to find ways to connect English with your passions. If you love cooking, try following recipes in English. If you enjoy gaming, play games that require you to read or chat in English. When you engage with the language in ways that feel fun and exciting to you, you'll be more likely to stick with it. Take Alicia, for example. She was passionate about photography and decided to combine her love for the craft with her language learning. She started reading photography blogs in English, watched tutorials, and interacted with fellow photographers online in English. This made the learning process feel natural and enjoyable for her. Plus, it helped her learn specialized vocabulary that she could use in her field of interest. It wasn't just about learning English, it was about making her learning experience more meaningful. The magic of English lies in its versatility. It's a global language that bridges cultures and connects people. By learning English, You're giving yourself the gift of communication, opportunity, and connection. Every time you use the language, you open a door to a new world, whether it's through travel, professional opportunities, or personal growth. One of the most beautiful aspects of learning English is that it's never too late to start. Whether you're 15 or 65, it's always the right time to learn and improve. Age, background, or previous experiences don't matter. All that matters is your commitment to learning and your desire to grow. Think of Roberto, who began learning English at the age of 50. At first, he was unsure if it was even possible for him to become fluent, but he didn't let age stand in his way. He dedicated himself to learning, practicing every day, and using English whenever he could. Years later, Roberto could comfortably speak with people from all over the world. His journey shows that no matter where you start, it's always possible to improve. In fact, learning a language later in life can be an enriching experience, as it allows you to see the world through a new lens. The challenges may seem greater, but the rewards are just as sweet. It also gives you the opportunity to reconnect with things you once thought were out of reach, like traveling to an English-speaking country, reading classic literature, or even just watching your favorite English language shows without subtitles. As we approach the final steps in this journey of learning English, never forget why you started. English is more than just a skill, it's a tool for personal growth, for connecting with others, and for shaping the life you want to lead. Your ability to speak, understand, and use English will open up countless doors for you, from career advancements to new friendships and adventures. So, as you move forward, remember that learning English is not a destination, it's a continuous journey. Enjoy the ride. Keep challenging yourself. Keep exploring the language in new and exciting ways. And most importantly, believe in yourself and the amazing progress you are making. It's a powerful concept because in the process of learning English, you will face many challenges. There will be times when you feel like you're not making enough progress or that you're stuck. But what truly defines successful language learners is their ability to bounce back from setbacks. Imagine being like a river constantly flowing forward, despite the obstacles in the way. The river doesn't stop just because it encounters a rock. It simply flows around it, finds a new path, and continues its journey. Similarly, in language learning, obstacles are not reasons to give up, but opportunities to adjust, learn, and become stronger. Think about Ravi, who had been learning English for months but was struggling with pronunciation. No matter how many times he practiced, he couldn't get the sounds right, and it was frustrating. There were days when he wanted to give up, but Ravi had a deep passion for learning English, and he refused to let a small setback stop him. He sought out new ways to practice, watching videos, mimicking native speakers, and practicing with a language partner. Slowly but surely, his pronunciation improved. He realized that perseverance was his secret weapon. This ability to bounce back is so important in language learning, and it's something that you will develop the more you practice. Every mistake you make is not something to fear, but rather an opportunity to grow. It's part of the process. As the famous author J.K. Rowling once said, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." So don't be afraid to fail. Don't let fear or failure stop you. Each mistake you make brings you one step closer to your goal. In fact, embracing mistakes is a mindset shift that can change everything for you. When you stop seeing mistakes as something negative and start viewing them as learning opportunities, your entire experience with learning English will shift. You'll no longer feel anxious about speaking in front of others, and you'll start enjoying the process much more. It becomes less about perfection and more about progress. Every time you try something new in English, you're stretching yourself, and that's what truly matters. When you speak English, it doesn't need to be perfect. What matters is that you're communicating. You are conveying your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings. And that's the essence of language connection. English isn't just about the perfect sentence or flawless grammar. It's about building relationships, understanding others, and expressing yourself clearly. There's a beautiful story I want to share with you, one that embodies the true spirit of perseverance and self-expression. It's about a man named David, who grew up in a small village where he had little opportunity to learn English. But David had big dreams. He wanted to travel the world and meet people from different cultures. He knew that the only way to do that was to learn English. At first, David struggled. He tried learning English on his own using books, but he couldn't find a way to practice. He was embarrassed to speak because he knew he'd make mistakes. But David refused to let fear hold him back. He found a way to practice by speaking to anyone who would listen. Sometimes he made simple mistakes, sometimes even big ones. But he kept going. His confidence grew, and as he kept practicing, his English improved. Eventually, David was able to travel the world, meet people from all walks of life, and make connections that would have been impossible without the language he had learned. David's story is a powerful reminder that no dream is too big when you have the resilience to keep going, no matter the challenges. Learning English is a bridge to your own dreams that are waiting for you, just like they were waiting for David. It's proof that you can achieve anything you set your mind to, as long as you're willing to work through the tough moments. So, let's take a moment to reflect. What are your dreams? What doors do you want to open with English? Maybe it's to start a career in an international company. Maybe it's to travel the world or live in an English-speaking country. Perhaps you want to read the works of Shakespeare or J.K. Rowling in their original form, or maybe you simply want to speak more confidently with people from all over the world. Whatever your dreams are, they are within reach, and English is the key. Now, let's talk about the importance of emotional connection in language learning. English, like any language, is not just a set of words or grammar rules. It's a way to express yourself, your ideas, and your emotions. When you speak English, you are communicating more than just facts. You are sharing a part of your soul. This emotional connection is what makes learning a language truly powerful. It's what will keep you motivated when things get tough. For example, think about Karina, who moved to an English-speaking country for the first time. She felt nervous and isolated, unable to connect with others because of her limited English skills. But one day, she had a conversation with a stranger in English, a simple one, but it made her feel heard. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time, Karina felt like she truly belonged. That conversation sparked a flame within her. It reminded her why she was learning English: to connect, to express herself, and to build relationships with others. That's the magic of language. English gives you a voice, a way to be heard and understood by people from all over the world. And the more you connect emotionally with the language, the more powerful it becomes. When you make learning English a part of your life, not just as a skill, but as a form of expression, you'll find that it feels more natural and fulfilling. Another important lesson in language learning is the idea of growth mindset. This term means believing that you can develop your abilities through dedication and hard work. Language learning is one of the most rewarding areas where a growth mindset can make a huge difference. Instead of thinking, "I'm just not good at languages," you should tell yourself, "I may not be great at English now, but with practice, I will improve." With this mindset, you'll approach every mistake with curiosity instead of frustration. You'll look at challenges as opportunities to learn and grow. Take Olivia, who struggled with English grammar for a long time. At first, she thought she would never understand complex sentence structures, but instead of giving up, she approached it with a growth mindset. She sought out different resources, books, videos, online courses, and kept practicing. Eventually, the grammar rules started to make sense. Olivia didn't just learn English grammar, she learned the value of persistence, patience, and the belief that she could improve. Her success came not from being naturally talented, but from being willing to put in the effort. A growth mindset helps you to embrace the process and focus on long-term improvement. It takes the pressure off of being perfect and places it on simply learning and growing. This mindset is essential for anyone who wants to continue learning English successfully. As we continue on this journey together, let's talk about the power of community and collaboration. Learning English does not have to be a solo endeavor. One of the most effective ways to improve is to surround yourself with people who are also learning. Group study, language exchanges, and conversation partners are all wonderful ways to practice your skills and get feedback. Remember Amanda, who joined an online study group for English learners. She was shy at first, afraid of making mistakes in front of others, but with the support of her group, she felt more comfortable practicing. As she interacted with others, she realized that everyone was at a different level, and no one was judging her. Instead, they were all helping each other to improve. Through this community, Amanda's confidence soared. She learned that learning English is about collaboration, support, and shared growth, and it made her feel like she wasn't alone on this journey. By connecting with others who share your goals, you not only improve your language skills faster, but you also build relationships that can last a lifetime. And that's the beauty of language. It's about connection, community, and shared experiences. As we wrap up this deep dive into language learning, let's reflect on the bigger picture. English is not just a language, it's a gateway to a world full of opportunities. Whether it's for career advancement, personal growth, or connecting with others, English empowers you to expand your possibilities. With dedication, perseverance, and the right mindset, there's nothing you can't achieve. So, keep dreaming, keep practicing, and remember, English is not just a skill, it's your ticket to a brighter future. Whether you're just starting out or already on your way, the journey is worth it. You are building something incredible, and the world is waiting for you to share it. The environment you surround yourself with plays a huge role in how quickly and effectively you can learn English. If you want to accelerate your progress, it's important to immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Think about the last time you were in a situation where you didn't know the language well. Maybe you were in a foreign country or trying to understand a movie in a language you didn't speak. At first, everything seemed unfamiliar, and you might have felt lost. But as you spent more time in that environment, your brain started to pick up on patterns. You learned words, phrases, and ideas from context, even without actively studying. This is the magic of language immersion. One of the easiest ways to immerse yourself in English is by changing the language settings on your phone, computer, or social media accounts. You'll be surprised at how much exposure you get to English just by navigating through everyday tasks. Start watching movies and shows in English, even if you need to turn on subtitles at first. You can also listen to music, podcasts, or audiobooks. Surrounding yourself with the language in these ways will help you internalize English in a natural and enjoyable manner. But here's the key: immersion isn't just about exposure to words, it's about emotional connection. The more you connect emotionally to the content you consume in English, the stronger your learning will be. If you love adventure, watch travel documentaries in English. If you enjoy cooking, look for English language recipe videos. When you connect with the content emotionally, you'll engage more deeply with the language and retain what you learn much better. Let's not forget about the power of speaking. The best way to improve your speaking skills is, quite simply, to speak. But I know that many learners are afraid of making mistakes or looking silly when they try to speak in English. Let me tell you something incredibly important. No one starts out speaking perfectly. Every fluent speaker was once a beginner. Every mistake you make is an opportunity to learn, and every conversation you have, no matter how small, is a step toward fluency. Think about Emma, who was always afraid of speaking English with her friends. She worried about sounding awkward, so she avoided speaking whenever she could. But then Emma decided to take small steps. She started by introducing herself in English at every opportunity, even if it was just a brief greeting. Gradually, she gained more confidence. As she began practicing more, Emma noticed that not only was her fluency improving, but she was also becoming more comfortable expressing her thoughts in English. The secret is to embrace imperfection and keep pushing yourself to speak as much as possible. You can practice speaking in many ways. Find a language exchange partner, join a conversation group, or even practice by talking to yourself. Yes, that's right. Talk to yourself in English, whether it's in the car, while you're cleaning, or even while you're walking down the street. It may seem strange at first, but it helps you get more comfortable with forming sentences, using new vocabulary, and building confidence in your speaking abilities. It's also incredibly useful to record yourself speaking and listen to it afterward. This may feel uncomfortable at first, but it's one of the best ways to track your progress and identify areas that need improvement. When you listen to your recordings, you can spot areas where your pronunciation may need work, or you can hear when you sound unsure. Over time, these recordings will help you track your growth and see just how much you've improved. Feedback is another vital part of language learning. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback from others, whether it's from a teacher, a language partner, or even a friend who speaks English fluently. Feedback is a wonderful tool for self-improvement, and it can provide you with valuable insights into areas where you can improve. But remember, feedback should always be constructive and encouraging. The goal is not to make you feel bad for making mistakes, it's to help you learn and grow. Now, let's explore one of the most exciting aspects of mastering a language: the doors it opens. As you continue to improve your English skills, you'll realize that the possibilities are limitless. Whether you're aiming to advance in your career, connect with people from other countries, or simply enjoy the beauty of English literature and media, learning English is the key that unlocks new opportunities. Take Luis, for example. He was working in a small company and struggled to climb the career ladder because he didn't speak English well. He decided to invest time in learning the language, and it wasn't easy. But he didn't give up. He practiced daily, took English courses, and spoke with anyone who would listen. Over time, Luis's English improved, and he started to stand out at work. His colleagues and bosses noticed his progress, and within a year, he was promoted to a higher position. Luis's dedication to learning English transformed his career and opened up a whole new world of possibilities for him. As we move forward, let's take a moment to talk about motivation. Staying motivated in the long term can sometimes be challenging, but it's absolutely essential to your success. Intrinsic motivation, the motivation that comes from within, is the most powerful driving force for language learners. When you're learning English for personal reasons, whether it's for self-improvement, travel, or connecting with others, you're more likely to stick with it in the long run. A great way to tap into your intrinsic motivation is to set meaningful goals. Think about why you're learning English and how it aligns with your personal values. Are you learning to get a better job? Are you excited about traveling to new countries? Are you passionate about understanding the world through books, films, or music? Whatever your reason, make sure it's deeply connected to your personal aspirations. Let's also consider setting short-term goals. Instead of thinking about fluency as an overwhelming goal, break it down into smaller, more manageable milestones. For example, you might decide that this week you'll learn 20 new words, or that this month you'll be able to have a basic conversation about a specific topic. Achieving small goals not only gives you a sense of accomplishment, but also keeps you motivated for the next challenge. One strategy that I highly recommend is the reward system. After completing a goal, reward yourself. If you've learned 50 new words this month, treat yourself to something you enjoy, whether it's a favorite meal, a movie, or a little break to do something relaxing. Positive reinforcement strengthens the behavior you want to repeat, making it more likely that you'll stay consistent with your learning. Learning English is also a personal journey. It's about you, your growth, and your commitment to self-improvement. Along the way, you'll face challenges, but with each obstacle, you will grow stronger. The struggles are part of the process, and the satisfaction you feel when you overcome them is what makes the journey so fulfilling. Imagine the moment when you can comfortably converse in English, when you can express yourself confidently, watch movies without subtitles, travel to English-speaking countries, and navigate them effortlessly. That moment is coming closer, and it's all thanks to the hard work and dedication you're putting in today. And remember, as you continue this journey, you are not alone. There are millions of learners around the world who are on the same path, just like you. They're making mistakes, learning and growing, just like you. And by embracing the learning process, you're part of a global community of language learners. The road to fluency may take time, but the beauty of learning a language is that every step forward is a victory. Each new word you learn, each conversation you have, and each small milestone you achieve brings you closer to your goal. Keep pushing, keep practicing, and remember to enjoy the process. English is not just a tool, it's a gateway to new experiences, new opportunities, and new ways of seeing the world. As you embark on this journey, know that the best is yet to come. Keep your heart full of passion and your mind open to new possibilities. You are capable of amazing things. The world is waiting for you to speak up, and English will be the bridge that takes you to your dreams.